Hi everyone, very happy to be here. Isn't it a beautiful day here in Berlin? What do you see when you look at this picture? When I look at this picture, I see an incredible opportunity. And what do I mean with that? Well, over the last couple of years, there's been an explosion in the number of satellites. Obviously, you heard a couple of talks talking about how new space at large has been exploding, hopefully not in a literal sense, but right now you have dozens of new satellites being launched nearly on a monthly basis. And obviously these satellites come with incredible potential. They produce data about every single place here on the surface of the Earth, not only obviously in the visual spectrum, but spectrum such as infrared, radar, and such. Max, the next speaker, will speak a little bit more about that. And in our point of view at LiveEO, and in the point of my co-founder and myself, this data, these insights coming from these satellite data sources are crucially important. They are important because we are facing global problems such as climate change, geopolitical challenges, as well as demographic changes, which require us as humanity, as asset owners, as asset operators, to better understand the world around us, to then derive new ways how we ensure, secure, and manage the outer world. And so, on the one hand side, you have that great technical potential, data about every single asset out there. And on the other side, you have that strong demand. You need to better understand what's going on around my assets across the globe. But there's a gap. But I believe that if we can cross that gap, we can really transform any industry, and we can really impact nearly every use case, from agricultural use cases to how people operate their houses, where new cities are being built, and so on. So, in my point of view, this potential is incredible. But it's not only my opinion. Also Deloitte, as well as nearly every other management consulting, maybe sometimes speaks about the hundreds of billions market, sometimes about the $1 trillion market. We can discuss about the numbers, but it's definitely an incredible potential which sits in the area of Earth observation analytics, satellite data analytics. But why hasn't this potential yet been lifted? Well, in our point of view, there are ultimately three reasons for it. Currently, what you see a lot is that satellite operators build incredible hardware, launch them up to space, and then try to sell raw satellite imagery. But if you're now an industry company, or if you're a government, or if you're just nearly anyone out there, you don't really know what to do with the data. So therefore, a lot of the satellite companies have never really been able to create material revenue flows from the commercial sector. Secondly, what we've been seeing over the last couple of years is that there were a lot of companies which were building horizontal satellite data analytics platforms. But they tried to boil the ocean and tried to do too many things. And again, we're offering a service to end customers which was like, hey, here's a tool, do something with the tool, instead of really solving a problem. And then last but not least, in Europe alone, there are nearly 1,000 companies which are analyzing satellite imagery on a project basis. But obviously, this is not really scalable. So what we said at LiveEO is we need to solve that. We need to bridge that gap through technology, and that's what we've been doing since 2018, now with 120 people. We've built technology which allows us to acquire and aggregate and harmonize data sets from several different satellite operators, then to analyze these data sets, obviously with AI, to identify what's on the imagery. But then we take it multiple steps further. We translate the AI analytics into actionable insights, an answer to an actionable business problem, and then also make sure that the insights can be delivered to end users via integrations into already existing systems or applications. And we believe that this flow, that this stack is necessary to unlock the full potential of satellite data. Doesn't matter in which industry you're in. And that's really the vision we are following at LiveEO now since 2008. And what we have done since then is we've built the leading satellite data analytics tech stack. And it sounds easy, and yeah, you've heard about how to build a capsule which can return from space. But if you really want to analyze satellite imagery at scale, it's tremendously hard because you really need to build a lot of things from scratch which have not been available commercially or generally publicly. So we've done this over the last couple of years. But we've said, okay, well, if we want to build commercial traction, if we want to really bring technology to end users, we need to, again, start with solving an actual problem, a simple problem. And that's what we've done, and that's what we started with in 2019. So on top of the tech stack, we've built one vertical application. And that first vertical application we call Treeline, and that helps with a significant problem for infrastructure grid customers all across the globe. So it doesn't matter if you're an electrical grid operator in North America, in Europe, in Australia, in Japan, or wherever. Or if you're a railway operator, you need to make sure that there are no trees falling onto your overhead line or onto your railway network. For obvious reason, right? You don't want anyone to die because there's a train colliding with a tree or that a wildfire sparks, which is the case. Nearly 30% of unplanned power outages are caused by trees falling into overhead lines, and thousands of wildfires are caused exactly like that. And this is also the case for some of the biggest wildfires we have seen to date. So what we do is we tell the grid operators precisely where trees are next to these overhead lines. We tell them about the health of these trees, the species, the growth, and we derive an action. We tell them exactly where they need to take action, and we tell them in a way that they can dispatch work crews. And that's what they are doing. Our customers include the biggest American electrical grid operator, the biggest European grid operator, the biggest Australian grid operator. We have one of the biggest Japanese electrical grid operators. This is a really global problem, and we've built a global solution. But again, our vision is to unlock the full potential of satellite data. So we always ask ourselves, how can we prove that the technology stack can do more than just this one thing? And therefore, we built a second application again on the same stack, benefiting from the development which we've already done for the infrastructure sector again, this time in the pipeline sector. So pipelines, doesn't matter whether they transport liquids, gas, green hydrogen, or whatever, it needs to be made sure that they are safe and that no one is building something on top or next to them. And you would be surprised how often this is happening. And obviously grid operators want to prevent that, and they do that right now, walking in the pipelines, flying them. And again, something where satellite data can be incredibly powerful by doing that automatically and at scale. And that's the Surface Cloud product, which is now being used by pipeline operators in North America, in Nigeria, in Europe, to make sure that there are no environmental catastrophes alongside their networks. Very intuitive application, very difficult to build at scale, and that's what we've done here. But again, our vision is horizontal. So how do you prove that? How do you prove that to investors? How do you prove that to yourself? We wanted to show that this is not only an infrastructure play what we're having here, but really a technology which can go beyond that. And therefore, after evaluating many different use cases, we've built a third application on our stack, which we've called TradeAware, which allows companies to deal with the new EU deforestation regulation, which requires more than 1 million companies to prove that there's no deforestation within the supply chain. And how do you do that if you have suppliers in Papua New Guinea or in Finland or wherever on the globe, right? A distributed supply chain. How do you do that? Satellite data, again, can help you with doing that, and we've built an application which integrates into an ERP system and helps operators to trace and then create proof of compliance for this deforestation-free status. And customers are companies like Bauhaus on the one hand side, to companies which resell dog food, to paper producers, to companies which are small companies reselling coffee. So this is also really interesting, and honestly, I would have never thought that one day a dog food reseller would buy a satellite data analytics solution, and that just shows you really that the potential of Earth observation data is nearly unlimited. And ultimately, we believe that with these 3 products, we can grow into a 100 million euros company. We're right now close to 10 million in ARR. we're growing pretty quickly with 2 sales teams, one in the infrastructure space, one in the supply chain space. And we believe that we have a unique opportunity at hand here because there's no bigger Earth observation analytics company in Europe right now which is independent. There is no real big US American player which really has that vision and is following that vision. And we believe therefore that if we are now successful in bringing these products to market and growing them even further, and proving further out that our technology platform is really capable of scaling horizontally, then we can also enable others to make use of Earth observation imagery through the technology which we've built, and ultimately unlocking this full potential of satellite data. So that's what we are doing at LiveEO. But I think this is called the European Titans, right? So I believe this is not only an opportunity for us, as a company LiveEO, I think this is a European unity opportunity as such. Why? Because Europe already has the leading Earth observation programs coming from the European Space Agency. And while in the US, under the Trump administration, money is cut for remote sensing programs, we have already built a leading program, the Copernicus program, and are expanding on that to provide further insights on what's going on across the globe. That's on the one hand side, but on the other side, what we've been seeing is that Earth observation companies which have been built in the US, which do something similar to Earth observation companies in Europe, like, for example, a company which is called Capella Space to a company which is called ISI, which is in Europe. You see that the European companies can, for once, really play out the Americans, and it seems like they are succeeding. And this is, I think, a very promising thing, and I think a great inspiration that Europe can really build the leading ecosystem in this Earth observation field. And obviously, we try to play our part. And therefore, if you have any ideas about what you could do with satellite data, or if you operate an electrical grid, a pipeline, or have a supply chain problem, I would love to talk to you about how we jointly can unlock the full potential of satellite data. So that's that. Now, hard cut. Because I think that yesterday there was a presentation from the European Investment Fund, and there was one question. The gentleman on stage said, well, there is one thing which is true. The US is just a more established ecosystem, and it's an ecosystem which had more time to develop, and that's true, right? There is just a time advantage. So the question is like, how can we as a tech ecosystem advance quicker and become better quicker? And therefore, as LiveEO, we've raised 50 million euros, and we spoke to hundreds of VCs, and some VCs did things really, really great. And so what we've done is we collected these things, which are really, really great, in a white paper to share them with the other VCs, which maybe are not hundreds of times in the shoes of a startup pitching to VCs. So if you want to talk about that experience or that white paper, I'm happy to share that with you as well. You can also find it here under that QR code. But yeah, that's LiveEO. And again, I think the potential of Earth observation data is unlimited. And at LiveEO, we want to build a global market leader and a $1 billion company on top of that opportunity. Thank you.